This is still lesson 9-8. We are learning one more method to factoring by grouping, and this is the very last example, finding the dimensions of a rectangular prism. The problem says a rectangular prism has a volume of 36x cubed plus 51x squared plus 18x. They want us to factor to find the possible expressions for the length, width, and height of the prism. As you may know, the formula for finding the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. So in order for them to get this volume of 36x cubed plus 51x squared plus 18x, they needed to multiply a length times a width times a height. That's what they're asking us to find, and basically, you know, they're really just asking us to factor it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this 36x cubed plus 51x squared plus 18x and factor using our new method of grouping. So remember, we always want to see if we can pull out a GCF first. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor out a GCF. I notice, first of all, they all have an x in common, and that they're all divisible by 3. So the greatest common factor that I'm going to pull out is a 3x. 3x. And then 3x times 12x squared gives me 36x cubed, plus 3x times 17x would give me 51x squared, and then 3x times 6 would give me 18x. Now that I've pulled out my GCF, I can use the next couple of steps for grouping. So we're going to leave this 3x out, and actually, let's just remember it's there. I'm not even going to write it down. We just need to not forget about it, or we'll be in trouble. So our second step for factoring by grouping is to find the product of my first and last term. So 12 times 6 gives me 72. Now I need to use that number and find the factors of 72 that add to be my middle term of 17. Because remember, we want to rewrite this trinomial as a 4-term polynomial so we can use grouping. Since both our numbers are positive, we don't have to worry about negatives. We know we'll only be using positives, and you know you can go through all your factors. 1 times 72, way too big. 2 times 36, way too big. So we know we need numbers closer together to give us a smaller sum. So the numbers I think of are 8 and 9. 8 times 9 is 72. 8 plus 9 is 17. So now we're going to rewrite this trinomial as a 4-term polynomial. So again, don't forget about that 3x, and we're going to rewrite our trinomial. So leave your first term alone, plus, now we're rewriting 17x as 8x plus 9x plus 6. Now that we've changed our trinomial into a 4-term polynomial, we can use grouping to continue our factoring. So I group my first 2 terms together, and then you group your last 2 terms together. And again, don't forget about that 3x, so let me just bring down that 3x, open my brackets, and then we have, what is the GCF of 12x squared and 8x? Well, I know I can pull out 4x. 4x times 3x is 12x squared, and 4x times 2 would give me 8x. Then for my second group, the GCF of 9x and 6 would be a positive 3, so I'm going to pull out a plus 3 times 3x would give me 9x, and 3 times 2 would give me 6. So then remember, we can again pull out another GCF because we notice with these 2 different groups that they have a GCF of this 3x plus 2. So now I'm going to pull out a 3x plus 2. So again, bring down your 3x because we're leaving that alone. Then we're pulling out the 3x plus 2. And what do we have left? 4x plus 3. So what are our dimensions? Again, they asked us to find the dimensions of our rectangular prism. So it would be 3x times 3x plus 2 times 4x plus 3. And again, the reason I put the commas there is because they asked for the 3 different dimensions. So they needed to be separated with commas. All right, let's try one more of these, and then we'll be good for 9-8. Find expressions for the possible dimensions of each rectangular prism. So again, all they want us to do is just factor this trinomial, 6g cubed plus 20g squared plus 16g. So my first step is to, of course, see if I can pull out a GCF, and I certainly can. They all have a g in common, obviously, and they also all have a 2 in common. So I'm going to pull out a 2g. Oh, that's a q. Let me try that again. I'm going to pull out a 2g, and then we'll see what's left. 2g times 3g squared gives me 6g cubed. 2g times 10g, 20g squared, and 2g times 8, 16g. Now we can use our grouping method to expand this out into a 4-term polynomial. So I don't know what my brain is doing. So our second step is to rewrite this as a 4-term polynomial. So in order to do that, I have to multiply 3 times 8. So 3 times 8 gives me 24, and then I need to find the factors of 24 that add to be my middle term, in this case of 10. And again, everything's positive, so I don't have to worry about any negatives. And you can start at the beginning. 1 times 24, way too big. 2 times 12, too big. 3 times 8, too big. And then we have 4 and 6. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 plus 6 is 10. So we're going to rewrite 10g as 4g plus 6g. So don't forget to include your 2g. 2g times 3g squared, leave your first term alone, plus 4g plus 6g plus 8. So remember, we haven't changed this, we've just rewritten it. So instead of 10g, we have 4g plus 6g, so that now we have 4 terms, and we can use our grouping method. So I'll bring down my 2g. We know we're leaving that alone, and now I'm going to group these together. So I have 3g squared plus 4g is my first group, and 6g plus 8 is my second group. GCF of 3g squared and 4g, well, they don't have a number in common. They both certainly have a g in common. So g times 3g gives me 3g squared, and g times 4 would give me 4g. And then our second group, the GCF, is just a 2, so plus 2, a positive 2, times 3g would give me 6g, and 2 times 4 would give me 8. And then again, you know, we can pull out this GCF of 3g plus 4 from both of these groups. So then we have 2g times 3g plus 4, which we're pulling out from both these groups. So then what's left? Just g plus 2. So what are our dimensions? Well, 2g times 3g plus 4 times g plus 2 would give us the volume of 6g cubed plus 20g squared plus 16g, and of course you can FOIL this back out to make sure your answer is correct. So before we end this video, let's go ahead and summarize our steps again. So the first step is always to see if you can pull out a GCF. You always want to determine, can you pull out a GCF from all your terms? The second step then is to find the product of AC, which just means the coefficient of your first term times your constant. And then your third step is to find the factors of AC that add to be your middle term coefficient of B. Then you rewrite your trinomial using the factors of AC. And then finally, you group, and you find the GCFs of your group, and then you're good. All right. If you need more help on this, of course, you can see our book or see me in class.